Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a tier list for Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist Link Evolution. I would like to preface this video, however, I think player skill and player knowledge of the game is what is most important, not necessarily picking the best deck. I don't think you will be able to look at this list and say, alright, I'll pick a tier 1, and then you will go and win every single match. It's not the way it works. As you can see, there are 44 decks on this list, and not having matchup knowledge will hurt you a lot in this game. That being said, the reason why I've chosen to make this list for the first time ever making a tier list is because I felt that for beginner players it can actually be very helpful to know what to focus on in kind of what order. So I'm using this as a learning tool, not as a tool to say, hey, your deck is bad. Before anything else, and before we start this video, I do want to ask, please feel free to subscribe, feel free to leave a like, and also I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below. So let's get to it. This is the tiers that I've broken this down into. We have tier 1, tier 2, legacy, tier 3 and tier 4. Tier 1 are decks that are consistently viable, that have a wide range of options and answers and are good pretty much no matter who they play against and what matchups they are, whether they go first or they go second, they're still pretty good. Tier 2 and tier 1 are very close. Very close. There isn't a big gap between these two. However, the tier 2 decks have a few flaws here and there that make them a little bit less consistent than the ones in tier 1. Legacy tier. I'm putting this dead in the middle because these are the decks that regardless of how good they are, regardless of how bad they are, people are going to play these decks, okay? You're going to play against them, so you may as well learn them and be aware of why you have to learn them. Tier 3, we're talking more about specialist decks. You're talking about counter matchup decks, decks that are good against some of the decks in tier 2 and tier 1, and if I were going to a tournament I knew, hey, a lot of people are going to be playing this deck, this is most popular, then I would pick a deck in tier 3 and try to counter it, but they're not good against everything. And then tier 4 are decks that could be strong, but most of the time they are kind of unfavorable, or they're just they've been nerfed too much, they're just not really gonna go the distance. So let's get to it. This is in alphabetical order. So let's start off with ABCs. Tier 4. ABCs used to be a tier 0 deck in the game, really powerful when they first came out. They went back to full power before Link Evolution came out. They now have ABC Dragon Buster back at 3, but the whole deck is just too slow for the modern format. We aren't relying on slowing the game down with our normal summon anymore, and ABC Dragon Buster as a boss card isn't really that special anymore. A lot of things can out it. Altergeist, tier 2. Altergeist is by far and easily the best control style deck in the game. I'd almost put it at tier 1, but I'll speak about why I won't in a second. It's a trap based deck that allows it to main decks many really good trap cards like Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, Infinite Impermanence, Torrential Tribute if you wanted to, Anti-Spell Fragrance, Imperial Order, cards that are just instant win buttons when you have them on the field. Then the archetype itself has its own powerful tools. You have Protocol, which negates monster effects. You have Hextr, which negates spell and trap cards. Meliseek can get rid of any card in the field by sending it to the graveyard. And Silkwitters can bounce any card off the field. It pretty much covers every base. The only thing this deck really quote-unquote struggles with are cards that cannot be targeted by card effects. But that still can be dealt with through options in your edge deck, so it's a very powerful thing. The only other thing with this deck as well is that I think Meliseek is only at 2, so it isn't quite at full power, but still Altergeist are amazing. Our first legacy deck are Blue Eyes, and this version of Blue Eyes, there are multiple versions on this list, is more the rank 8 version where you're using Alternative Dragon, White Dragon Spirit, and you're using your rank 8 summons. It's actually a very good deck, and if people don't know, Blue Eyes won the World Championships in 2016. They're really good. And people are always going to play them. It's always going to be a popular deck. And they just get more and more support. I think a month from now in the September Yu-Gi-Oh! Tins, Lost Memories, they're going to get even more support. And things like Bingo Machine, just they keep on getting more and more support. Blue Eyes, very good. And you definitely should learn it. Burning Abyss, tier 2. In particular, I'm talking about the trap variant. I'm not talking about Burning Abyss Phantom Knights anymore. The trap variant of this deck, where you're using Traptrick to get out Fiend Griefin, is the version I'm mostly referring to. I think Burning Abyss is very powerful. It got Tour Guide back, either semi-limited or fully limited. so the deck is almost back at its full power, and the deck can almost deal with any situation whatsoever. The only thing Burning Abyss struggles with are boss monsters that, say, can't be targeted by effects, or big attacks that are so big that it can't attack over. You can maybe temporarily remove it with Farfa, but you can't permanently get rid of it. That's the only real thing this deck struggles with. It's also weak to graveyard, anti-graveyard strategies as well, but otherwise it's really, really good. Very strong deck. Burning Abyss never dies. Blue Eyes Chaos Max. This version of Blue Eyes are mostly focusing on the ritual deck, where we use incantations in order to search out advanced ritual art, the incantation spell, or Chaos Max in order to summon out Chaos Max, and then you use creature swap, give them the incantation with 0 defense, and then Chaos Max OTKs for 8,000 damage using its piercing ability and its double damage effect. Very good card. It is what I call like the first hurdle for new players to get over. A lot of new players come to the game, they see Chaos Max and like, wow, that's amazing, I'm going to play this card, or I don't know how to beat that because it can't be destroyed by card effects and it can't be targeted and it has 4,000 attack. Most decks though that are higher on the list or even low on the list can deal with Chaos Max quite easily. I will acknowledge, however, I have seen variants of this deck where they mix these two together and Chaos Max is just like a part of the deck, it's not the whole purpose. So there are variants like that out there, but I think the pure version of Blue Eyes is better than the Chaos Max version personally. Crusaders I would put at tier 3. This is a very good going second OTK deck. It can main deck Kaijus, which means it can deal with any type of boss monster, just tribute over it. Equimax can gain attack equal to the monsters it points to, and it points to 3, so it will get attack equal to your Kaiju and 2 monsters it points to, and then you just attack and swing and do a lot of damage in a single turn. The only thing with this deck is it isn't that good going first. It doesn't have any like negates or anything like that, so it really wants to go second, and it's very straightforward. It's not a very complicated deck, but it can do very good going second. Cyber Dragon, another legacy deck, and I think it's stronger than Chaos Max. Cyber Dragon was very, very good in Master Rule 4. Master Rule 4 where people were forced to use link monsters and then summon monsters to the zones that link monsters point to. When we were still in that format, Cyber Dragon was very good because Cyber Dragon can contact views using Mega Fleet, anything in the extra monster zone. Now that we're out of that format and Synchro, Xyz, and Fusion monsters have been released from their previous shackles, Cyber Dragon is a little bit less effective in that manner, but it's still very, very good. Machine Duplication is still broken, their Quick Play Fusion spell is still broken, Overload Fusion is still in the game, that's still powerful, so it's still a very good deck and you're going to be running into it quite a lot. Dark World, tier 4, bottom of tier 4, I think it's worse than ABCs. It's better than ABCs actually, but it's, yeah, not that great. Mostly I'm talking about Danger Dark World. It's just a level 8 beatdown deck really. It doesn't really do too much. You can use rank 8 summons to give it a bit more of a toolbox, but it's very, very straightforward. The thing that I don't like about Dark World as well is that it discards cards from both players' hands to the graveyard, and depending on the card deck you're playing against, sometimes it can actually be really helpful and actually benefits them rather than hinders them. But otherwise, it's good. It's a very straightforward and easy deck to play, particularly with dangers, and if you get something like Skill Drain on the field, you're laughing. Dark Magician, and this time we're talking about pure Dark Magician. I'm going to stick him under Cyber Dragon. This version of Dark Magician is the Dark Magician spam version where you are trying to use things like Eternal Soul or Dark Magic Veil in order to summon out Dark Magician again and again and again, and then you're going to use them as materials for rank 7 plays or link summons and take a boost of Dark Magic Circle's effect to banish cards on the field. It's very good. Dark Magician is very, very consistent with Magician's Souls, Soul Servant, it's Magician's Rod. I'm blanking on the other engine starters for this deck. It can be very, very consistent and easy to play. Very much fun as well, and you're going to see it played a lot. DDDs. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to put it, I think it's better than ABCs, but DDDs received a lot of hype for this game because we're now in Master Rule 5 and Synchros and Fusions and Xyz monsters can be summoned to the main monster zone, but they haven't really been that successful. I'm not really too sure why. I think the deck is vulnerable to interruptions. It can be hit by many hand traps quite easily and can't play through them, but it can make some decent boards, but it just isn't that strong. Dinosaurs, tier 1. Our first tier 1 deck of the day. It is it's really, really strong. Ultimate Conductor Tyranno is very, very good. This deck is brilliant at going second, where you can just break your opponent's board. You can main deck things like Kaijus in your deck because you can search them out as there are dinosaur Kaijus. You can use Ultimate Conductor Tyranno with Lost World to OTK your opponent and Pentastag. You can turn all cards on the field on your opponent's field face down and then send them to the graveyard with his own effect. So he's really good at baking boards. Going first, this deck is even good because you can make things like Evil Solagiel or Doka to put out some negates. You have Miscellaneousaurus to protect your monster from being destroyed. You have Pot of Extravagance to help you draw more cards. You can main their Lightning Storm and it won't hurt you, or Evenly Match and it won't hurt you. This deck is bonkers. It's really powerful. Tier 1. Right, Dragon Link. I don't know. I don't know much about Dragon Link and Link Evolution. I don't see a lot of people playing it. I know how good Dragon Link is in the TCG. I know how dominant this deck has been, and if the deck was the same way, it would be tier 0. The deck is that good. That being said, there are a lot of cards that are not in Link Evolution that we normally use in the real game, and therefore I can't really judge it too well. We don't have Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. We don't have Chaos Space. We don't have Noctovision Dragon. I don't really know how well this deck works. I haven't tried it myself. Oh, I did, but I didn't really get anywhere with it. And then the builds that I looked up that were relevant to the time were using things like Soul Eating Overraptor as its engine starter. And Soul Eating Overraptor is limited to 1 in this game. And while that doesn't hurt pure dinosaurs too much, I can't see it working that well with Dragon Link. So if anybody has a Dragon Link build and they want to show it off to me or tell me about it, or just give me something in the comments to tell me how do you find this deck. I know Rockets can be really good, so maybe that can work on its own. I don't know, but so I'm gonna leave it at the bottom of tier 4, but it could be strong. It could be. Endymion, top of tier 3. Endymion is the best Pendulum deck to play. If you want to learn Pendulums, this is really the only viable version of Pendulums. It's a mixed match of Endymions, Mythical Beast, the Spellbook Engine, and yeah, that's the 3 things together. You also use the new card Selene, Queen of the Endymions, or whatever it's called, and it really helps this deck out quite well. It's a Pendulum deck that doesn't have to rely on Pendulum Summoning. That's the biggest weakness right now, that their whole core mechanic was nerfed so much that the reason why this works well is because it doesn't have to rely upon it. It has great negates in the form of Jackal King and Endymion himself. It has great ways to break board in the form of Endymion, Mighty Master. Also, Mythical Beast Cerberus can break boards. It has great cards in terms of Vortex Dragon. Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon can be a really good Omni Negate. So it can be really good. The only thing with this deck is it does brick sometimes. And yeah, that's just it. Top of tier 3. Goukies used to be a really good combo deck when Firewall Dragon was still in the game. At the moment, not so much. I don't really know what they do anymore. No one seems to play Goukies, but it could be good. Just have no idea about it. So again, like Dragon Link, if you know about Goukies, do let me know. But no one's playing it, so I'm not too worried about it. Gren Maju, I would put better than Crusadia. It's a very fun deck to play. Banish a lot of cards and then put a big level 3 on the board with 10,000 attack and swing the game. It's a very straightforward deck, and it doesn't have a lot of variety, a lot of options, but what options it does have can be very good. Gren Maju is your win condition. You have Hextrude, which can pop cards on the field. Eater of Millions is an amazing removal tool. You can play Pot of Desires without any downsides, Pot of Extravagance without any downside. So it can be really, really fun to play, but I don't think it's good all the time. Harpies is the weakest legacy deck. I strongly, if I didn't have this legacy tier list, it would be at the bottom of tier 4. They're just a rank 4 deck, and while rank 4s used to be really amazing, and you could still do stuff like Utopia Double to OTK, it's just not that good, and not amazing anymore. The game is just way faster, and Link monsters are still very, very powerful. Yeah, not much to say about Harpies. But at the top of the legacy tier is definitely Heroes. Heroes is better than Blue Eyes, it's better than Cyber Dragons, it's better than Dark Magicians. If I didn't have this legacy tier, Heroes would be tier 2, easily. Heroes is an amazing combo deck. You can go first with them and set up the board with things like Dark Lore. You can go second with them and break boards using things like Dystopia, Evil Hero Destroyer, I believe it's called. Sunrise can get you Miracle Fusion. This deck is very resilient. Even it can play even well through Interruption. It's a type of deck that if I were to play against this deck, I would have to use my side deck to beat this deck, because I would want Nibiru, I'd want Evenly Match, I'd want Lightning Storm to help me break that board when going and force them to go first, because going second, they are definitely a lot more powerful. But out of the Legacy style decks, it's definitely the best one. The main disadvantage with this is the deck is so tightly packed, it doesn't have a lot of room for flexibility because you hurt the viability of its combo. So you have to play the hero cards. You can't really fit in tech cards with this deck. But otherwise, it's very, very good. Infernoids, I think Infernoids are about here. Infernoids are a really good deck, but they're a really good counter to graveyard-based strategies, and you can't always guarantee you play against that. But they have inherent negates, inherent monster negates, spell and trap negates, and ways to control the graveyard, so they can be good, but it's the type of deck which you take into a tournament knowing with some expectations what you're going to play against. Not really for online ranked blind. Alistair the Invoker. Tier 1. Easily the best engine in the game. He is so strong. He can go first and set up the board with Mecha Bars to do negates. You can go second and OTK with just his engine alone. He works, you can play him pure as just an Invoked deck with lots of hand traps. You can play him with other decks like Mekk-Knights, Shaddolls, and you can still get very good results. He is insane. As long as you have a deck that doesn't rely on its normal summon, you can pretty much play this deck in any this engine in any deck. Especially if it has light monsters in it, you can really play that well. Very versatile, negates, monster removal, big attack monsters, can OTK. Just amazing engine, probably the best in the game. Very few weaknesses, very resilient. And also the engine is very small. That's probably the best thing about it. This engine is only 10 cards, 3 Alistair, 3 Invocation, some people even only play 2, and 3 Magican Meltdown and 1 Terraforming, and then you're good to go. You've got 30 other cards to try and win the game with. So yeah, Alistair the Invoker, tier 1. Kozmos! Kozmos are really good. Really good. They went back to full power just before this game came out, because Dark Destroyer came off the limited list. It's now back at 3. This makes this deck very versatile and very good at destroying cards on the board. The ships also float, so they replace each other with one another when they're destroyed, and this deck can still OTK. It's very good. You have a ship on the board, you attack with a pilot, tag out, summon a ship, and then bring in Dark Destroyer, pop. I'm not going to go through the combo, but it can OTK. It's a really good deck. The only thing this deck really struggles with are boss style monsters. If cards can't be targeted, then this deck starts to struggle a little bit. And if monsters are bigger than it and it can't be targeted, then you're going to run into problems. But it's a very good deck to learn. It doesn't need the extra deck at all, so you just play Pot of Extravagance or Super Poly. And yeah, it's a really strong deck. Lunalights, tier 1. I don't know where to put them. I put them in better than Dinosaurs. Because they have a better board going first than Dinosaurs, and they are really good going second as well. But tier, yeah, Lunalights are busted. Lunalight Tiger is broken. It is an insane card. It is their Pendulum card that can summon a Lunalight from the graveyard, but it is not a hard once per turn. So you can return it to your hand through Yellow Martin, through Zephyros the Elite, and then just use it again and again and again. And in addition, if it gets destroyed by a card effect, it goes to the Pendulum, it goes to your extra deck, and then you still get to special summon a monster. So it is absolutely insane. Kaleido Jick is really good because it sends to the graveyard for a cost and not effect, so your opponent can't negate it at all. And you basically summon a bunch of level 4 monsters and make bigger Link monsters, bigger rank 4s. Baguska you can play, Abyss Dweller, good floodgate monsters to win on first turn. Going second, you can make Borrow Sword Dragon, Borrow Low Dragon. You can put Appaloosa in the deck. You can put Daruma the Fighting Doll. You can put Tornado Dragon, Exeter Knight, Daguerres. It is so versatile. Oh my god, Psy-Frame Lord Lambda to make the Gamma package live in your deck, so you can use Gamma while having monsters on the board. This deck, Time Thief Redoer, so good. It is an amazing combo deck. Really powerful. Madolches are good. Bottom of tier 2, I would say, maybe tier 3. Madolches, they don't do a whole lot, but they do have some really good cards, and their engine is very resilient. They don't have their level rank 3 monster anymore. I think it was MX Invoker or something like that. But they do have Sistart now in the game, and they do have Madolche Queen Tiramisu. I really like Tiramisu because she has the ability to remove 2 cards on the field by shuffling them in, and it doesn't target, so it's a very good form of removal. This deck is very resilient. If you have Ticket on the board and Chateau on the board, your monsters constantly recycle themselves back to your hand and back into your deck, and it's very good. It's very, very good, and people that are good at Madolches can win a lot of games. It just isn't wow. It just is. It's very resilient, but it's not wow. In fact, I'm gonna put it as tier 3. Before Endymion, after Endymion. Mekk-Knights, tier 1. Bottom of tier 1. The engine on its own isn't too amazing, but this engine is so easy to use. It's just a beat down engine, and you can run it with only 6 cards. 3 purple Nightfall, 2 blue sky, 1 indigo eclipse, and boom, there you go. You've got Mekk-Knights, you're ready to go. They're very high level, easy to play, a light based engine, and they work well with other decks most importantly, and they work well with Alistair. And in my opinion, when Alistair and Mekk-Knights team up, they are tier 1. Best deck in the game in my opinion. Very, very strong, can summon out Mekka consistently. Ideally, what you do is you play Alistair, you do his engine, you try to do fusion summons, you play through your opponent's interruption, and if your opponent stops you doing your engine, then you just go, okay, now I'll play Mekk-Knights. And you're in a simplified game state where you can just beat down your opponent and attack them and win the game. Together, this can even run Pediplant engine, and you can play things like Neos Fusion. Send Neos Fusion to the graveyard with Neos and Rainbow Dragon. More light monsters for Alistair to take advantage of and banish from the graveyard to summon Mekka. And then you can OTK your opponent using Rainbow Neos. It is incredibly powerful. Doesn't matter if it goes first. Doesn't matter if it goes second. Phenomenal. Musketeers. I think Musketeers are kind of weak, in my opinion. They're okay, but they're very linear. I'll put them with Crusadias about here. They like to go second. They have the potential to OTK, but they're so fragile and they're very normal summon dependent. It loses hard to things like Ghost Ogre, Ash, depending on what card they're trying to use. It can lose to Vet Failure, Imperm, definitely loses to Nibiru. So I don't think they're that good, personally. Nekroz. I think Nekroz are better than that. I think Nekroz could be around here. Nekroz are ideally, again, like Gren Maju, like Infernoids, they are a counter pick deck. They are very good against decks that rely on special summoning from the extra deck, because they can really target people's extra deck monsters very well. However, other than that, they don't do a whole lot. Going first, they're quite weak. You can get Vanity's Ruler, Tribute Summon it in order to have a monster on the field that says neither player can your opponent can't special summon monsters. But other than that, they leave a lot to be desired. And yeah, they're the type of deck you play when you know what your matchups are going to be. Orcust, my favorite deck in the game. Sadly, I put it here. I'd put it there. Middle of tier 2. Orcust used to be tier 1. Used to be the best deck in the game. And literally right before this game came out, Harp Horror got limited to 1. And it sucked. I hated it so much, because it meant that this deck was less consistent and much weaker in terms of its starters. This deck now has only one free path, and you have to normal summon a monster like Scrap Recycler, Armageddon Knight, or Dark Grepher, send Orcust Nightmare to the grave, and then use your resources to make your Orcust monsters. If your opponent interrupts you for that, and you don't have some way to counter, like Cull by the Grave, it will shut down your whole turn and you can't do anything about it. And that really hurt the consistency of this deck. But why this deck is still good is its resources are phenomenal. Ningirsu is one of the best boss monsters in the game. It can summon to the field and send any card on the field to the graveyard without targeting, without destroying. It can protect your board from being destroyed by card effects. You have Orcust Crescendo, which can negate any card on the field and banish it, which is very, very important. You can use Ningirsu to send cards to the graveyard. You can use IP Masquerena to use the Nightmare engine. It is a very, very powerful engine to use. You can even use the Crystron engine, which is really good to use as well. But it that nerf to its starter viability really hurt the deck. Paleo Frogs. Paleo Frogs, I think they're around here. Paleo Frogs are a good stun deck. They're not as good as Altergeist, however, and they can be a bit slow. The Paleo cards are nice because you have things like Dinomiscus, which can banish any card in the field. You have Canadia, which can destroy a spell or trap card. and DDD, whatever it's called. They can flip a card face down. I might have those two backwards. And then they can be used as water monsters to make Totally Awesome along with your frog cards. And Totally Awesome is very, very powerful. It can negate any effect and steal your opponent's cards. And then it floats. When it goes to the graveyard, it gets you back resources. And you can keep on looping it to negate again and again and again. And I think you can even have multiple in the field. And you can still negate your opponent multiple times. It's just a bit slow. And you really have to drag out the duel for this. And frankly, I don't really find it that fun to play. But I think it's good. If you like to try to troll your opponent and use like little weak monsters to kind of negate things, it can be fun to play. Pendulum Magician, not worth playing in my opinion. Pendulum Magician got nerfed even hard just by the game being Master Rule 5. Pendulum Magician in Master Rule 3 was the best deck in the game, easily. Then Master Rule 4 came around and said, everyone, you have to use Link Monsters. Then in Master Rule 5 says, if you're Fusion deck, Xyz deck, or Synchro deck, you ain't got to use Link Monsters anymore. And Pendulums are looking like, what about us? Like, no, you're still nerfed. And so Pendulum Magician just really isn't as good as it once was. You are still dependent on Link Monsters in order to make the deck work. And really, you don't want to make Link Monsters. You want to make Fusion Monsters, Synchro Monsters, and so on and so forth. But you need to summon your resources back from the extra deck first. So you have to make a Link Monster. Even with things like Celine helping out, or what's that chicken called? That airbird. I can't remember what it's called. It's gone off the top of my head. Even with that in its deck, it's still not good enough to play. I think if you're going to play a Magician deck, not Pendulum Magician deck, if you're going to play a Pendulum deck, the best one you can play is Endymion. Go for that. Prank Kids. I'm going to put it around here. Prank Kids are really, really fun to play. They are a Link/Fusion hybrid deck. They are very, very resource efficient. Anytime you do a Link summon or a Fusion summon, you get to replace the cards you used with more cards from your deck, and you can overwhelm your opponent with resources. Your boss monster is either a Rokket or a Harpies Feather Duster effect, and yeah, they're very, very good. I strongly recommend trying to learn this deck now if you're planning to play Master Duel, because they are one of the best decks in the game. Right now in the game, particularly because they get a Link 1 card, which makes their starter plays very, very efficient. It turns them from a 2-card starter deck to a 1-card starter deck, which makes them incredibly consistent. Other than that though, the only thing about this deck that I find difficult is I often run out of time when playing online. 180 seconds sometimes isn't enough, and if I'm not fully concentrating and I'm playing like I'm watching something else, I run out of time before I finish the combo. So there is that. But maybe you're better than me at that and that won't hurt you at all. Otherwise, Prank is really fun to play. Rockstun. Rockstun leave a lot to be imagined. This goes for Border Stun, Barrier Stun. You just play a lot of Floodgates and you summon one of those monsters and you just hope they can't play the game. Yeah, it's not really that good in my opinion. I think it's quite bad. Tearful. Bye, Tearful. You're not going up there. Put it there. Salamangreat. Salamangreat is the definition of a tier 2 deck. It is the top of tier 2. It is not one of the most overpowered decks in the game, but it is perfectly balanced. You have a negate, you have ways to destroy cards on the field, you can modify a monster's attack and defense, you can shuffle spell trap cards on the field back into the deck, you get your resources back from the graveyard and recycle them, you can blow up the field with your tier Link 4 monster, you can OTK with Transcode Talker and Update Jammer. It is a very balanced deck that can pretty much do anything. There's not a whole lot this deck can't do. Very, very good. I strongly actually recommend anyone that's new to the game to learn Salamangreat. They're not the easiest deck to learn in my opinion because of the whole summoning from the graveyard mechanic, but if you can get your head around it and you can understand the play, the lines of play, very, very good deck to pick up with and start playing online. Shaddoll. Shaddoll got a boost because they got a structure deck release and they got more support. They got 2 really good cards to come with that. And playing pure Shaddoll has put this deck back into tier 2. Now, Shaddolls are a graveyard style fusion based deck. They love their cards being sent to the graveyard. But because they're being a fusion deck, you often either run it with 1 or 2 other sub-engines. You can either run it with heroes and do Vision Hero Vion or Elemental Hero Blazeman, which both search up polymerization for you, and then you have a dark material to summon out Window or a fire material to summon out the fire monster that they don't bother summoning. Or, more likely, You stack this deck with Alistair the Invoker, and this deck becomes tier 1. Yeah, Shaddoll Invoked is very, very powerful, very consistent. Window is great, Construct is great, the Invoke cards are great. You can use your light monsters to summon out Construct, and then you can go and summon out Mekk-Knight, so you have your more negates there, more ways to shut down your opponent. I think Mekk-Knight Invoked is stronger than Shaddoll Invoked, but Shaddoll Invoked is still really, really good too. Very powerful when combined with Alistair. On its own, same with Mekk-Knights. On its own, Mekk-Knights is probably like tier 2, but with Alistair in the game, very powerful, tier 1. Sky Striker, speaking of tier 1. Sky Striker were the most dominant deck of 2017, 2018, 2019. They were busted. They were so powerful. Little Miss Waifu, Summon Link monsters. Now that we're in Master Rule 5, she got Engage Band, Multi-Roll to 1, Kagari to 1. She's not worth playing in this game at all. Some people are very happy about that. I am mixed because I used to like playing Sky Striker, but yeah, this deck is not worth playing anymore. And sadly, got nerfed way too hard. Spellbook Engine. Spellbook isn't really a deck anymore, it's just an engine. It's like Alistair, however, and I just kind of wanted to point out, they're both very similar. You use them in the same situation where if you have a deck that is special summon reliant and you don't need your normal summon, you can choose either one of these. Alistair gives you monsters from your extra deck and gives you really good boss monsters, and is a lot better than the Spellbook. But if you can't utilize those fusion monsters well, then you can play the Spellbook Engine instead, and you can get some extra draw power. I often see this run with things like Endymion to power up their deck and get more spell counters, or run it with Dark Magician, and he's a spellcaster, and you don't need to normal summon with Dark Magician, so you just get more draw power. Either way, it's a very good engine to know and to slip into your deck. So on its own, Spellbook is not really a deck anymore, but combined with these two decks, it can be up there with them. I almost actually think it's a requirement for Endymion, so I'll stick it over there. Spyral. Spyral, why does no one play Spyral? I don't understand. Spyral is stupid. Spyral is super strong. Can answer every situation in any situation. Can play main deck cards like Evenly Matched, Lightning Storm, Pot of Extravagance, Gamma, really powerful counter cards, and then combo off with itself. It's at full power still in the game. Master Plan is still insane. It's a very powerful deck. I don't understand why people aren't playing Spyral more, but it's up there. It's definitely tier 1. Don't know where to put it really, because I don't really see anyone playing it. So I know how good it can be from playing it in real tournaments, but I don't see anyone playing it in Link Evolution. Subterror. Subterror, the second best control deck in the game after Altergeist. Really good, just not as consistent, and has a smaller starter pool than Altergeist, so you kind of have to hope that you open with the right hand, but it is very, very good. The best thing about this card is you can main deck the card There Can Be Only One, and There Can Be Only One pretty much counters every single deck that isn't Alistair the Invoker. Lunalights can't play under There Can Be Only One, Dinosaurs can't play, Shadows struggle a bit, Spirals can't play, Salamangreat can't play, Altergeist can't play, Orcust can't play, Kozmos kind of work it out, that's fine. Burning Abyss can't play. If you can put There Can Be Only One in the field, it's your auto win button, and if your opponent doesn't have Twin Twister, Cosmic Cyclone, or some form of easily accessible spell trap removal, it's GG. Subterror, will it go there though? It could go anywhere. They're about all even here. It could go here. Don't know. It doesn't matter really. Really doesn't matter. The Dark Magician. So, we spoke about the normal version of Dark Magicians, but I actually think the Dark Magicians variant of the Dark Magician that uses this fusion card is the best version of it. You use Dark Illusion Magic quick play spell to fusion summon this out, and then anytime you use a spell or trap card is used, you get to draw a card. This stacks really, really well with cards like Soul Servant, where you can go into your deck, stack your deck with things like Mahad, and then when you finish using it, Mahad gets drawn, and then you get to summon him to the field. Combine this with other fusion magician cards like Timaeus to protect your cards from being targeted, so they can't pop your board with Eternal Soul and then pop your board. It makes this really, really resilient, and even if they do get rid of this card, you then get to summon Dark Magician and Dark Magician Gale out of your hand, graveyard, or deck. So I think this variant is better than the pure variant, the normal variant. I think the fusion variant is better. Is it better than Pure Blue Eyes? No idea. I think they're about even. Heroes definitely the top of the legacy tier, but then these two very powerful. Thunder Dragons are dead. For now. They're dead for now. They will get support in Toon Chaos. They get some Chaos support cards, Chaos Space, that searches at Levianeer, and these cards are naturally dark and light, so they do get a bit better, but the banning of Colossus for this deck really just killed it. It was such a meta-defining card, and they had to get rid of it, because for them to sell new cards, they couldn't be weak to Colossus, so they had to get rid of that. Trains, I'm going to put at the bottom of tier 3. They're good. Great OTK deck, like Crusadia's, good at going second, great for breaking boards. Gustav Max is stupid. It can make 6,000 attack easily, 8,000 attack and attack twice. Very good deck, just doesn't like to go first, and yeah, it's an OTK deck. Traptrick Serra, a deck I would love to know more about, and it infuriates me. Anytime I'm testing like a Funzy deck and I run into this deck online, I'm like, crap, I'm gonna lose. This deck just snowballs. It's like Altergeist, but I don't think it's as good. It just continuously gets more resources, it searches out normal trap cards, it shuts down your opponent, and it protects itself from destruction. Really, really good card. I don't know enough about it to say between tier 2 and tier 3. I'm going to stick it on tier 3 for now. I think that's a safe bet, but I think it can be at the top of tier 3 easily. Trickstars are dead. Light Stage is at 1, Candino is at 2, Reincarnation is at 1. The engine is basically dead. It used to be super powerful as Alistar. Run it with Mekk-Knights, run it with Sky Strikers, but now it's just nerfed too hard. Speaking of nerf, my baby, Draco, my second favorite deck. The first deck I ever learned how to play competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! With. It is a great control deck. Probably, it used to be the best. It was the top of tier 2. But just before this game came out, it got nerfed super hard. Dragonic Diagram got limited to 1. Card of the Minds got limited to 1. Into the Void got limited to 1. Terraform was limited to 1 a couple of months before. You can't mix it with a Sky Striker engine anymore to play Sky Striker Draco because multi-rolls at 1. You can't play Engage. So it really hurt the starting viability of this deck and its ability to grind as well. That being said, it is a lot of fun. It can answer every situation and you don't need to use extra deck cards. You can pop spell and trap cards, you can tribute over your opponent's monsters, you can half their attack. It is a lot of fun, but unfortunately, it has to go down to about here, tier 3, because it just, sometimes you just brick with it. Zombies, really good deck. Fun, very straightforward. Mainly just Battle Rock Turbo. You just want to summon this back from the graveyard, banish cards on the field, and then you use him to make Vampire Sucker and use the Shiranui cards to overwhelm your opponent. Can be a really good counter option against certain decks. Zombie World, turning all monsters in the field to zombie can be really painful to things like Salamangreat, because they want Cyber's monsters. Dinosaur, it doesn't really hurt Dinos too much, but it can be a little bit. Shaddoll, Spyral, it will hurt Spyral a bit. Altergeist, not so much, but certain decks it can counter really well. It's good, it's decent, it's quite easy to play as well. Last but not least, I'm going to stick at the bottom of tier 4 is Zoodiac. Zoodiac, unfortunately, doesn't have Trident in this game, so it makes its ability to extend itself as a self-sufficient engine a lot weaker, but I still think it's decent. It has 14 cards. You play 3 Ram, 3 Throwblade, 1 Rapier, 3 Whiptail, 3 Tenki, and 1 Barrage. You don't even need the trap card. And then you've got, I think there's a 14, 15 card, 1 card starter engine. And what you can do with it is make Shaka 9, use Shaka 9 to put 2 monsters in the field, and then use extenders like Instant Fusion, Monster Reborn, or even something like Mekk-Knights to extend your plays further, do link summons, and help yourself break boards. It's okay, because the engine is so small, you can play a lot of hand traps, a lot of counter style cards, but without Trident, it does hurt this deck quite a bit. But otherwise, I think it's worth learning, because this, Prank Kids, and let's say anything else, Dragon Link, those are the best decks in the game right now, and if you're going to play Master Duel, I recommend getting your head around how those decks work. Everyone, that is the tier list for Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. I'm just going to have a quick scan over and make sure I'm happy with everything. I think it was pretty good. What do you think of the tier list? Do you think I'm justified in the way I've ranked them? Do you think this is pretty fair? I think this looks pretty good. I think this is pretty respectable. Of course, there are other decks in the game. I didn't even talk about Synchron. Jet Synchron as an engine. I should have talked about that in here. Jet Synchron engine. Let's pretend. What's a bad deck? It's Pendulum Magician. This is Jet Synchron. Yeah, Jet Synchron is up here. Jet Synchron as an engine is stupid. The fact that we can still play it and they can't play it in the TCG is insane. Play it with Mekk-Knights is really, really good. One card, you get Borrowed Old Savage and Herald of the Arclight on the field with just one card on the field. It's really, really insane. So Jet Synchron, that goes up there because Pendulum Magician's dead. Anyway, that is the video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you watched it all the way to the end, I greatly appreciate that. As always, feel free to leave a like, feel free to subscribe, and also feel free to comment. I would love to hear your opinion on this all. As always, thank you for tuning in. I'll see you soon. Take care.